What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show as the Blazers today took on some familiar faces, Eric, as the Phoenix Suns beat the Blazers by final score of 122 to 111. But the final score doesn't matter. This is preseason, and we're going to recap what matters as far as the preseason on tonight's stream. We're going to talk about Scoot. We're going to talk about DeAndre Ayton. We're going to talk about Nurkic for the Suns having a good game. The Suns had a good offensive one in this one. It was nice for the Blazers to make it interesting down the stretch, but in the end, they can't get their preseason win. They are now eliminated from the preseason championship. And all we have left to talk about is Scoot looked pretty good, and there's a couple other bright moments as well. So first off, Eric, how's your night been so far, my guy?
Okay. Got to watch most of the game, so I heard a little bit of you on Suns Valley podcast as well.
Yeah, Funster Suns Valley podcast, man. In preseason, it's tough to keep up with their energy, you know? I played some...
Well, they're excited. They have a championship.
I know. They should be very excited. So, and their center pickup looked pretty freaking good today. Nurk looked pretty good. So we're going to talk about all that. And then, of course, we'll take your questions. Probably going to keep it to an hour to an hour and a half is kind of our goal right now. It's preseason, so we're not going to go all out in terms of post-game shows. We wait for the regular season for that. But yeah, man, initial thoughts from this game.
I thought Scoot looked pretty good. 6 turnovers, but I thought one thing we're looking for is his shot. I feel like his shot looks pretty good from 3. So yeah, I'm encouraged by the way he's playing, the way he can get to the rim and lay the ball in. I think that's been positive so far. Yeah, I thought, like Jeremy played a little better than he did last game, so he got that going for us. Thibault had a good game. I mean, he only took 2 shots, but made both of them. I thought you could see what Brogdon could do off the bench. So if we're trying to have a good bench, that'll help a little bit. I think those are the main takeaways from the game. Defense still sucks.
Yeah, in the first half, Phoenix had 70 points. The defense is not
76.
76 points. I mean, that's a team that can score the ball, but they were missing Bradley Beal. They were missing an all-star caliber scorer, and they still score 76. And I don't expect this defense to be much better this year than it was last year. I don't think they've really solved any of the biggest issues. Obviously, having a healthy Robert Williams would help, but he banged knees in practice, so he misses another preseason game. We're already getting it started with Robert Williams, the third missing games. But it's the preseason, obviously going to be a little bit more cautious with him. So no complaints regarding that. Just hopefully it's not a trend once again this season like it's been in the past. But yeah, the defense definitely has some work. I don't know. I thought Phoenix did a really good job moving the ball. And when they moved the ball, they got open shots. And it didn't matter if it was KD on the receiving end of them. Like, Blazers didn't seem to really know where to help, when to help, how not to overhelp. Like, it's just team defense wasn't good, and it wasn't like they were keeping guys in front of them super well. So it's just all the same problems that we talked about last year. It was pretty much nothing new. And then you also, like, the hope is for a lot of people that Scoot could come in and be a better defender than Dame, right? Let's just start with the negative, because Scoot was really good tonight. There's a lot of positives, but maybe the biggest negative is he fouls out. In 31 minutes, he has 6 personal fouls, and in his first preseason game, he had 4 fouls. So that's 5 fouls a game so far in the preseason, playing about, I think he played, how many minutes did he play his first game? Let me look at it here. In his first game against New Zealand, he played in 19 minutes and had 4 fouls. So in about 25 minutes a game, he's averaging 5 fouls. And he's very strong and physical, but he has to learn how not to foul in the NBA. And rookies, this is part of the learning curve. This is part of the patience with Scoot. Is I expect him to be pretty dang foul prone to start his career for a point guard. Because you don't want Scoot getting 4 or 5 fouls in games.
Yeah, he really needs to. I mean, he's got a really strong frame, so eventually I think he'll learn to use that without fouling. But yeah, I mean, a lot of young guards struggle with that, especially if they play on the ball a lot, because there's like, imagine when he plays SGA and stuff. Like, there's a lot of players that foul bait, and they're going to take advantage of Scoot if he's over aggressive.
I hope he can learn how to do some of that, because with his speed, that foul he picked up on Saban Lee where he just caught the ball, he went from 0 to 100 in an instant on the catch, and Saban Lee had no chance of staying in front of him and had to foul him. Like, I think that Scoot will be a guy that can be one of those guards on the other end of the floor where he's picking up a lot of those, fouls, getting to the free throw line, that sort of thing. But the learning curve for Scoot is going to be turnovers and fouls. And we saw that tonight. We saw all the talent, because at the end of the game, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists against a legitimate NBA team where he's 8 for 14 from the field and 2 for 5 from 3. That is an efficient night. That is an efficient night for Scoot Henderson. He struggled with efficiency last year in the G League. He was a really good G League player, but didn't shoot the greatest percentages. So if you're able to get 2 for 5 from 3, that's 40%. You're able to get 6 for 9 inside the arc, and then he gets to the line 4 times, makes all his free throws. That's a super efficient night for him. He's not going to be out here putting up Dame numbers where he has a game where he's 7 for 11 or 7 for 12 from 3. If he does, then maybe we're just completely golden, because that's the one thing that I think really matters for him is finding that 3-point shot. It was nice to see him hit a couple. It was interesting that Phoenix basically rotated off him and left him pretty much wide open for those threes, but the way that you don't let that happen is just by knocking down those open threes. So he did that. Super efficient night tonight. Had a couple really impressive passes, including one falling down on the break where he kicked it out to Jeremy Grant and then didn't get the assist, unfortunately. But a lot of impressive moments. But the learning curve will be turnovers and fouls, and he had 6 apiece for both of those. 6 turnovers, 6 fouls. A couple questionable turnovers. So I think this was kind of the perfect game to showcase what it will be with Scoot Henderson this year.
Yeah, I liked his aggressiveness at times. Even if you're turning the ball over, I think it's hopefully a learning experience. So if he has a lot of turnovers early, and I'd say the same thing about fouls, hopefully that if he does have those games, he learns from them and builds on that, and the next time he's in those situations, he either makes a better decision with the ball or doesn't reach in or whatever on defense. So it's just going to be interesting to watch him progress through that throughout the year. But I did think he did a pretty good job of setting the table at times. Like you said, sometimes he kicked out and there were missed shots. But yeah, it's weird. I think his 3-point shot looked better to me tonight than some of his pull-ups or mid-range shots. He seems to have a little bit of a hitch, shooting around the free throw line. But his 3-point shot looked a lot more fluid than it did. I thought it was backwards watching his highlights from G League. So it's weird that it's like that. But
yeah, his form is kind of interesting to me. He doesn't have much of a wrist bend. He brings the ball up with his hand on the side of the ball and then kind of snaps it through. So I wonder if kind of that motion of snapping it through without that much of a wrist bend kind of is what that hitch is, and maybe he's more comfortable from certain ranges at certain times. I don't know, because I agree. He seemed to have more problems shooting from 3 than mid-range last year. His jumper looked smoother from the mid-range, but tonight it was the opposite. So
he turns it sideways right before he shoots. I don't know.
I think there's good aspects of his jumper. And in the end, all good form is about shooting the same way every time.
Yeah.
That's why shooters with really bad form can become good shooters. Reggie Miller never had great form, right? But he shot the same way every time. You just want a repetitive motion because you want to repetitively put the ball in the center of the rim. It's literally that simple. Now, good form makes it easier to have a repetitive motion, but it doesn't just come down to that. So I think for Scoot, maybe there's a couple tweaks that he'll be able to make over the next 2, 3, 4 years to his jump shot where it'll be a little bit easier and a little bit more repetitive. And also maybe a little bit easier for him to pull off the dribble, because right now he just seems like a standstill catch and shoot 3-point guy, not somebody that's really going to be pulling a ton off the dribble. You know, he had flashes of it in the G League last year, but of course there's that classic clip of him in that step back over Wembanyama. But I do think that's going to be part of his game that needs to be developed. But he's just a different player than a lot of point guards nowadays. He's a guy that's, you know, the Derrick Rose type of point guard. So it was beautiful to see him like just drive right at a guy like Yuta Watanabe and just basically jump right through him and finish. You know, like that's the impressive stuff. That's the stuff that I love to see, and that's the stuff that he'll be able to do in terms of being a scorer.
Yeah, or like when there's a defender between him and the basket, and it looks like he has nowhere to go, but he somehow like slips by him and reverses it in, stuff like that.
Little like right to left Euro with the. I love that. I love that.
But yeah, I think I'm with you on his jumper. It's not completely broken like Lonzo Ball or something where he has to rework the whole thing. He just has to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. Like, I think the flow is generally pretty decent. I think he has a feel for shooting the ball. So I think there is some stuff to work with there, and that's why I do have confidence that he'll be able to become a solid enough NBA three-point shooter. And it's not like he has to light the world on fire, you know, like John Morant isn't a great NBA three-point shooter. He's so freaking athletic. He gets into the paint all the time and finishes all the time. That's going to be more what Scoot is like compared to somebody like a Damian Lillard or a Steph Curry, obviously. So, you know, he just needs to be respected. Like, that's the goal with him is when other guys have the ball in their hands, like, they're not leaving Scoot Henderson because he can't shoot. But even if they do, man, like, you saw the way he got up to full speed off the catch against Saben Lee on that foul. Like, if you give him space, I think he'll be good enough where he'll just eat up that space in an instant and have a head of steam, and that'll be a problem. Where it's like, even if the dude couldn't shoot threes, you don't want to give him that space to be able to accelerate because he'll be able to get to the rim, put pressure on the rim because of that. So I think there's a select few guys in the league that maybe you don't want to sag off them when they're standing behind the three-point line, not necessarily because of their shot, but because of their ability to drive through that space. And I think Scoot can be one of those guys as well. So, you know, it's just going to be interesting to watch those types of scenarios. I do like that he's shooting the three ball with confidence, though, because I think that's kind of the start, right? Like, if you're open from three, shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. That's simple. Don't even think about it any more than that.
Yeah, that's the most encouraging part to me is when he gets those kick out threes, he's not hesitating at all. He's just shooting them right away. And that's, even if he misses those, he's been hitting them so far. But if he's just shooting that with confidence, it's gonna, I think it'll eventually make his 3-point shot respectable enough to do that. So he's a confident guy. It's good to see that that's not. Because, you know, sometimes even if you're super confident, you know, there's some part of your game that you're a little hesitant on, like Josh Hart last year, for example, you know, was scared to shoot early in the season, and it kind of hurt the offense at times. So just the fact that he's so willing to shoot and it's looked decent, I'm very encouraged by that.
Yep. Let us know in chat who you want us to talk about next, as I think this $5 donation from Colonel Pancakes, who says, there's times where Ayton just watches what's happening. Other than that, I thought we looked pretty solid for a brand new team. Thank you, Colonel Pancakes, for the $5 donation. We'll see if the chat wants us to talk about Ayton next, and maybe Nurkic next. Like, when we talk about Ayton, we're also going to talk about Nurkic, because Nurkic was the opposing center, and he looked pretty dang good tonight, and, you know, obviously former Blazer, so we will talk about Nurk and Ayton together, kind of, because, you know, I think it's interesting to compare them. Now, as I said on the last stream, I don't want it to be every time Nurkic does something good, like, oh, Ayton can't do that, or every time Ayton does something good, oh, Nurkic wouldn't do that. Like, I don't think a positive for one has to be a negative for the other. I don't really like thinking about it that way, but there were some negatives tonight from Ayton. There were some positives. A little bit more positives for Nurk, but yeah, we got a few Aytons. We got a Nurk there too. Let's just dive into it, Eric. So, where do you want? Okay, where do you want me to start with this? You want me to start with Nurk? Or you want me to start with Ayton, or do you want to start with one of those two?
I want to say something in general about centers. Okay, like all the time last year we heard like Nurk, like he'd be so good if he wanted to play all the time, or if he consistently brought it, And what did I say last year? Do you remember about like centers looking like they're lazy and
we talked
not
about
always
this all
give an
the time.
attitude, right? It's every center in the league, man, outside of like obviously Embiid and Jokic aren't like that. But every center in the league looks lazy at times and looks like they're lumbering out there at times or doesn't have energy, because it's hard to be a 7-foot guy and give maximum effort like 100% of the time. And one thing that people like never really account for is how hard it is to be your centerpiece on defense, where you're always having to come out in the pick and roll. Like every play you're getting hunted in the pick and roll, so you're having to either switch onto a guard or hedge and rotate back or protect the rim after being all the way up at the 3-point line. And you use a lot of effort, man. And then on offense, so it goes down to the post, and then the point guard calls for a screen, so he's got to run up for the screen. And then he doesn't get open off the screen, so he's got to come back and reset the screen. And then he's got to roll, and then he's got to make a decision what to do if he gets the ball there. It takes a lot of energy to play center in certain offenses and on certain teams. And this isn't like, I'm not trying to defend Nurkic or Ayton or knock him or anything like that. All I'm saying is it's very rare that you find an elite center that looks really good almost in the entire game. Like, we're going to have games, no matter who our center is, the entire season where we're like, wow, Ayton looks really good, or Nurkic on the Suns looks amazing. And then there'll be other games where it's like, oh man, Nurkic looks like the worst player in the league, and Ayton looks like he has no energy tonight, and stuff like that. It's going to happen all season. So that's not something that I would ever like say one game matters. But with all that being said, I am super worried if we're trying to win this year about our defensive rebounding and the effort on that end. And I mean, Nurk isn't like the quickest guy. So like the fact that he was like bodying Ayton on the boards and Ayton wasn't doing anything to box him out or to get in his way or anything like that. Like, imagine when we go up against quicker centers that are really good at offensive rebounds, how much of a problem that's going to be. And then you combine that with our forwards that don't rebound, and our guards are probably better rebounders than our forwards. So I just think that's going to be a huge problem all year when Ayton just turns around and stands and watches the ball go up, and his guy just goes right around him or muscles him out of the way and gets a putback or an and one or whatever, or creates another possession for the offense. And that's been a frustrating part of Ayton's game for a long time. I mean, there's the famous play from the playoffs last year where he just like stands there while Jokic grabs the rebound and puts it in. But like it's maybe not to that extreme, but he has had problems with boxing out and giving maximum effort on that end. So that is worrisome. And then people are talking about how he's not getting touches in the post or whatever. The dude doesn't shield his defender in the post, and that's annoying to have to pass to him when the defender can like tip the ball away because he's not sealing them properly. And so like he just stands there expecting the ball, and the ball comes to him, and the defender, like it's happened a couple times both games now, where a defender just knocks the ball away or it goes out of bounds or whatever because he's not sealing the guy in the post. And so if he wants touches in the post, he's got to seal his guy and make sure that he doesn't get over the top to knock that ball away. So that's going to be an issue. So like I have no problem if he's trying his best or whatever, but if he starts complaining about touches when he's not doing everything he can to get the ball, I really hope that's not the case. but yeah, it's I do think some of it's overblown just focusing on one game.
So, there was that clip yesterday where like he didn't want to answer the question about Phoenix, which I had a tweet where it was like I was a little annoyed at Jason Quick asking him the way he asked him to speak about Phoenix, like after it was obvious that Ayton didn't want to speak about Phoenix. If you haven't seen the clip, just go to my Twitter, link in the description. But Ayton was obviously annoyed yesterday, and I heard some more of that interview, and he was annoyed before that question. Like he just sounded pissed off from the start of that interview. There is a reason why the Blazers did not post that interview. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then there's a comment in chat, which I think is really interesting, from Bo Keller. Says, I was at the game tonight, section 105, row double K, and saw Brad Beal and Nurk with immense chemistry on the bench and tons of complaints from Ayton. I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't starting to worry already. Now, I'm not going to over worry, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be too worried about it until it's like 10, 20 games into the season, but there's already signs that you don't really want to see. There's a play where he had a lane to the rim and could have finished strong and crossed over, shot a step back mid-range and missed it, and then down on the other end, like, gave up 2 offensive rebounds because he wasn't trying to grab the defensive board. And then he gets taken out and he's like slouching and pouting. There's also a clip of him like muttering under his breath as he gets taken out. These are not things you want to see in the second preseason game. That plus the interview that he had after yesterday. It's just not signs that you want to see from him, especially given how everything went in Phoenix. Like, you don't want to see any signs of like DeAndre Ayton is upset, especially in the freaking preseason. What I'm wondering is he starting to realize that he's unhappy going from a team that won a ton of games and played in the finals and was super competitive to a rebuilding team? Or is it I'm worried that he's going to want more touches than he's going to get, and that could be problematic, especially if this team is losing games. Now, I'm not saying anything definitive. These are just a couple of red flags. He has the opportunity to rewrite the narrative about him. And that's the thing with Ayton, is he has the opportunity to come in and embrace a new situation, embrace what he needs to do, embrace what he needs to get better at, and work to improve himself. Like, it's all in his hands. So I don't, have sympathy for him not getting touches or this or that. Like, it's all up to him. It's in his control. So it's going to be interesting to see just kind of like what his attitude, his mindset is when the Blazers are losing games. Or, the Blazers, when healthy, have, in my opinion, the best backup center in the league. What happens if the Blazers are in a close game and lose and Robert Williams plays 30 minutes and Ayton plays 20? These are just the things that I'm wondering. And seeing how Ayton handles those situations will show you his mindset. So he might handle them well, which means that he's embracing having a better mindset. Okay? Yeah. But if he doesn't handle this well, then that is going to be a problem, and that's when you really start to worry if that happens multiple times going into the regular season. How he responds to adversity this season with this Portland Trail Blazers team will show you the mentality that he has. I already don't really like the signs right now, but he truly has a really good opportunity for himself to rewrite the narrative. So it's up to him.
Yeah, I think what it is he came from a situation where, he got kind of lost at times because, being the third or fourth or fifth option or whatever, you feel like you don't give enough opportunity. I think he saw this Portland team as not very good or whatever, and he was just going to come in and be dominating, and get all the touches he wants and all that stuff. But he didn't realize that you have to actually earn that stuff still, even though it's a team where he should get a lot of touches. You do still have to put in the work and do the little things to get those touches and all that. But I don't think he's doing anything like wrong yet or anything that we didn't already know about him. We all there's a reason Phoenix was willing to give him up for so little. when they have a championship core team. So I think for me, I'm hoping he's just like learning how to fit in with a new team and a new system. The trade was only a couple weeks ago, so I still want to give him a little bit of time and be fair to him.
Yeah. I mean, he has a great chance. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure some people take that as, me being negative all the time. I think one of the most positive things for DeAndre Ayton is to give him a chance in a new situation, right? And it seemed like the start of this, he was super hyped about being here. Maybe that hasn't changed. I don't know. Maybe he's just having a bad week. I don't know. But he truly has a chance. So he's either going to take it and run with it and it's going to be great, or he's not, and he's not going to have the right mindset, and then it will be bad, and then it will be negative. So, he truly has a chance. And that's all that he can ask for at this point, is just a chance to rewrite the narrative. And this is the type of situation where he can rewrite the narrative. He wasn't going to go to a contending team and be in a situation where he could have gotten more touches or could have gotten more opportunity. That's the thing, is a lot of guys that play for contending teams as young guys, they have to go to a worse situation to raise their status as an NBA player. That's what Mikal Bridges did, going from Phoenix to Brooklyn, where he looked like a freaking all-star last year for Brooklyn that he never did in Phoenix, right? Some players, though, if they are, for the majority of their career, winning a lot of games, it's a little bit tough to go to a situation where you're not winning as many games. So it's always interesting to see how players handle getting more opportunity, but also being on a less successful team, and how that kind of affects their mentality. So I think that's going to be interesting just to analyze, and I'm going to give him a chance because I think he deserves one. Just hope that he makes the most of it and hope that he has the right mindset.
I've really liked, there's been a play in both games where he's caught the ball up around the free throw line and gone straight in, like decisively and aggressively to the hoop and dunked it. And I really like those plays. But then there's other times where I feel like he has the ability or the open lane to do that, and he settles for a mid-range jumper and stuff like that, which is fine if he's hitting them or whatever. But like I hope he shows more of that aggressive side, because I think he's like talented enough and athletic enough to get to the rim off the dribble against pretty good defenders. And I think he kind of sells himself short when he settles for turnarounds, because he can get better shots. He is very skilled, and so yeah, it's not necessarily that like I'm frustrated with him or anything. I just hope he realizes at some point that he can basically score on any player in the league if he's a little more patient and doesn't settle for low efficiency shots.
Well, this is what I explained last year, because I mean, this is just so fascinating that I love that we have Ayton on our team for this conversation, because last year, I don't know how many of you guys in chat remember this, but last year we had a conversation where it was like, Nurkic at least tries to take it to the rim. Sometimes it's not there and he misses shots at the rim, so his finishing around the rim is not so good. With Ayton, it's kind of the opposite. Like, when the easy shot's there, when he can easily get to the rim, he'll go to the rim, he'll dunk it, he'll have a really good finishing number. But when there's like maybe a lane to the rim, but there's a defender close to him, he'll settle for that mid-range shot. But that's not a shot at the rim, so that doesn't hurt his rim finishing percentage, right? So like a guy that is more aggressive taking it to the rim is probably going to suffer if you just simply look at percentage. But I want the guy who's aggressive and at least trying to take it to the rim as a big man, compared to a guy that maybe settles for 15-footers when he has a lane. And that's basically my whole thing with Ayton, is if he has a lane to the rim, I want him to take it. I want him to go strong. I want him to try and finish strong. If he has a defender directly in front of him, I'm cool with him shooting those mid-range shots. I'm cool with him shooting those floaters, right? It's just like, if you have a lane, go strong. If there's somebody right in front of you, then pull up. Like, that's what the mindset needs to be, and it's a simple read. And he had a play today. I think it was in the I forget if it was in the first or second half, but I kind of tried to explain it earlier. I think it was in the second half, because I think it was right before he had gave up those couple of offensive rebounds where he had a roll down the right side and was able to get to his right hand, which he's a right-handed player, and had a lane, like his defender was to his left, so he had a lane to the rim, and he started to take it, and then crossed back over and shot a fadeaway mid-range and missed it. Like, those are the ones where, man, you're physically dominant, you're super athletic, just go take it strong, get fouled, get to the free throw line. He's a good free throw shooter, you know? That's what I want to see from him, and that's where his game needs to evolve, and that's where he needs to evolve his mindset, where he's taking those opportunities when they are truly there, because I absolutely agree with you. I do think he sells himself a little bit short in regards to being able to dominate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird having that dominating mindset, but not being super aggressive towards the hoop all the time. Like, I think that would be good. So Eric also says,
let me respond to this comment real quick. Mind Over Matter says the very next possession he rimmed in a 12-foot mid-ranger. That one, his defender was more in front of him, so I was okay with that. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I've seen a lot of questions or comments, including Eric Olson, saying to emulate Robert Williams when he comes in, and that he'll set a good example and tone for Ayton. I agree that that's a great player to learn some of those traits from. However, I'm concerned that what's going to happen, the games last year where Nurkic gets benched in the fourth quarter for Drew Eubanks and stuff like that. How is Ayton going to respond to that? Because I have to give Nurk credit for not ever really making that an issue. I'm going to give Ayton a chance. Like I said, I'm just really worried about how he'll react the first time that happens when Robert Williams plays more minutes than him or gets more shots than him or is more of a focal point of a certain game because just the pace of the game or how the game is going dictates that. So I am a little bit concerned about how he'll react to that if he's already starting to get chippy with questions and things with the media.
Yeah. I always felt like Nurk versus Ayton conversations was always a mindset of like the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And people got frustrated with like Nurk's problems because he's not perfect, but it was like, as you said earlier, a lot of other centers have all the same problems, but it's like you don't watch them game in, game out, so you don't realize them, right? If you just watch them for a game, you're not paying attention to him like that, where if you're watching Nurk for a game and you're tired of Nurk, you notice every little thing he does wrong that, like, irks you. And it's not that he's not doing those things wrong, it's just you're not noticing them with other guys on other teams.
Or you watch Clint Capella get like 12 offensive rebounds against us because we have no defensive rebounding, and then we're like, wow, that guy actually gives effort. But it's like just because our defense is so bad.
Yeah. So, man, it's going to be interesting to watch if Ayton evolves here. It's still worth the risk given the trade. Like, nothing is really going to change my mindset on the initial trade, even if it fails here. Like, it's the type of risk you take, and you got to live with the result. The result, best case scenario might be, you got a star level big man. Worst case scenario might be, you got a guy who isn't happy here and you can't trade him anywhere because of his contract. Like, there is a pretty wide range there in outcomes. You got to be able to live with the result when you're just giving up Nurk, Nas, and Keon basically to the Suns in that deal. But, man, Nurk looked good tonight. He struggled their first two preseason games. Today, he plays 21 minutes, has 17 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Only 1 turnover, 6 for 8 from the field, 1 for 1 from the three-point line, 4 for 5 from the free throw line. And I thought he had some really good defensive possessions.
Yeah. Another thing that's, we've been saying it for years, but super underrated. Look how many screens he set to give guys open shots, and look how well some of their players shot because of that, like wide open shots that he's getting them because of massive screens.
He even had that screen where I forget who he tripped, but he tripped someone and it looked like they got their ankles broken, but that's a great screen. Screen setting great. Yeah, he looked good. This was good Nurkic. And before I jump into his defensive stuff, shout MGJJ123 with a $5 donation. No message on it, though, so let me know if you meant to leave a message and YouTube removed it for whatever reason. If not, appreciate the donation. Defensively, just right spot a lot of times. Didn't block a bunch of shots, but forced misses around the rim. It's just kind of what we talked about, where he was overall very solid around the rim in this game and forced a few misses. So I think he'll do a little bit. I think he'll look a little bit better defensively there in Phoenix when he doesn't have a freight train to the rim at him all game long, because he has guards that can kind of stay in front of some guys occasionally, because that was obviously a problem last year. So, we're going to continue to compare these two guys all season long, because I think it's just a good case study for evaluating centers. It's not even where it's like I'm rooting for Nurkic to dominate and Ayton to suck, obviously. Like, I'm rooting for the Portland Trailblazers. I want Ayton to succeed here. I want him to have the right mindset. I want this team to contend. I want a championship. I want to do streams into June, so I want everything to go right for the Blazers. But it is going to be something where I am comparing these two guys, because I think they're two different styles, and now they flipped situations. So I think with Nurkic, it's tough to tell a lot of the little things he does, and Ayton, it's like he seems like a guy who should be dominant. So I think it's going to be very interesting to compare and contrast those guys for those reasons, given that they were traded for each other.
Yeah, and to me, it's not. I mean, I would say I like Nurk, but it's not like I want him back or whatever. Like, I don't think that makes sense, or like I'm not.
Yeah, he's in a good situation for him.
If I'm talking about those two, it's not in the sense that, like, oh, why did we trade Nurk for Ayton? Like, I understand why we traded for Ayton, and the opportunity to get him for the cost was just too good of an opportunity for Cronin to pass up. That's fine. I've been very clear since before I even knew we were getting Ayton that I did not want someone that has his kind of issues on a max contract, unless you're getting like compensated for getting him. So that's just my mindset. Is I'd rather just play a center that you're paying like a minimum contract to, or a younger center that you drafted over that. But yeah, that's just my philosophy. Is I wouldn't have those kind of contracts on my team. But right now, it's still a case where it should be a positive one, and we can always move him like Phoenix did, and just get out of his contract if it becomes an issue. But I think it's.
I don't know if we can always move him, because if he comes here and looks worse or like causes problems here, then it becomes it wasn't necessarily Phoenix, it was Ayton.
Yeah. Well, I think like you could trade him for an expiring contract or something. I think it'll still be okay to do that. Yeah.
So anyway, enough talk of that. I am rooting for Nurkic to succeed in Phoenix. I really like the guy, so it's going to be fun to see him play for that team, and hopefully he kills it.
Tori, can I bring my mom on for a second?
You want to bring your mom on? Okay, sure, yeah. We can bring your mom.
She was at the game tonight.
Yeah.
Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
So what stood out to you from the game tonight? What did you enjoy?
Well, the first quarter was awesome, but then we fell apart in the second quarter.
Who impressed you player wise?
Nobody really stood out tonight in this game. I'm tired. We had a horrible experience on Max tonight. Sorry, guys. But
what did you think of Scoot? Did he play well?
Scoot played well. I think him and Shaedon still need some more experience.
Yeah. All right.
Good job. All right. Well, there's a real Brant breakdown right there. That's a real Brant breakdown, Eric. You're muted.
Yeah. She was mad I put her on the spot.
Yeah. Chat likes the analysis, so she did well.
She came to pick up my kids because normally on Friday she has to come at 5 a.m. to watch them or get them up for school because I've already left. So
yeah,
she thought it'd be better because they don't have school tomorrow, so she picked them up so she doesn't have to come back in the morning.
Nice. Where are we? What was like? Offense stagnant. There's been a couple comments that have caught my eye with like the offense being stagnant. The offense does not look good. The offense just doesn't look good. But it's preseason, so obviously you expect it to improve. I'm just wondering how much is going to improve, right? That's kind of the question that we will be able to analyze over the next, the rest of the preseason over the first 20 games of the season. But it definitely has to improve because, man, it's so stagnant. It's very stagnant.
I am so worried about Chauncey as a coach, man.
Like, Eric.
My mom just gave me the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Should be fired after this year.
Well, what did I say? This year is the true litmus test in a way for Chauncey, right? Because for the front office, they're going to make him the fall guy with the team that they've put together, right? They have no expectations, but they quietly expect it to be good. And if there's any backlash, it's going to be Chauncey's way, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is we finally got Chauncey's guys. That was their whole thing in media day. Like, now we can finally play team basketball, which I'm paraphrasing. Like, that's not exactly what they said, but if you read between the lines, that's what they were saying in media day. Okay, so if you finally got your guys and you can finally play team basketball because Damian Lillard isn't here anymore, there is absolutely no excuse this offense should be just as stagnant as it was the past couple of years, right? Because you got your guys now. So if Chauncey's offense with his guys is this stagnant, then gotta stop blaming the players and you gotta blame the coach. Like, what are we doing? We're in preseason, Eric, and that's the thing is, like, I'm not gonna overreact too much to the preseason in terms of long-term things, but what is preseason for? It's for working on things that you need to get better at, okay? It defeats the purpose. Even if Jeremy Grant is playing good, it defeats the purpose to give him the ball 13 times in the first half and just everybody stands around and watches him isolate. It defeats the purpose of preseason. Mm-hmm. You don't need to work on that. That's easy. I can go stand in the corner and watch Jeremy Grant. Like, somebody could walk on the court and stand in the corner and watch Jeremy Grant. It doesn't matter if he's just isoing. What's the point? What are you working on? So that's the thing, is the fact that they ran so much ISO ball in this game, even though Grant had it going, he started 6 for 9, is just a little bit disconcerting because I feel like they need to be working on sets. And then if they're working on freelance, guys need to move more than what they were doing out there, because there's multiple times where there was 4 guys on one side of the court and none of them are even looking to screen for each other. None of them are looking to cut, and they're all watching the ball. So that's the time where Chauncey has to take a timeout and get into these guys you guys need to move. Even if it's not productive movement, you need to try and move. You need to try and set off ball screens. It's stuff I talked about in my preseason preview. The fact that it's just whatever in regards to how stagnant it was is slightly worrying.
Yeah, and it's for all the people commenting, it's preseason, calm down or whatever. Yeah, but Chauncey has yet to show that any of the stuff he talks about can be translated onto the court. And that's what I'm looking for this year. I don't even care if it's executed well or if players get out of position or whatever. But when I watch a team and the rotations on defense are poor and the sets on offense are very stagnant and ISO heavy, when you said it was going to be the exact opposite. We're going to be a team with a identity a certain way and all that kind of stuff on both ends, and your team ends up playing nothing like the identity you've said now for 3 seasons you want to enforce on this roster, that is the signs of a coach that just cannot get his players to respond and do things. So it's not that it's preseason or whatever. It's just that's something all season I'm going to be watching for, is not if the team's necessarily winning or not, but if they're at least trying to execute and be the team that Chauncey wants to be. And if they continue to be soft and not physical and slow the ball down and run a lot of ISO stuff, I don't understand what the point of having Chauncey as coach anymore after this season is. And he's got one more guaranteed year on his contract after this one, so who knows if they'll be willing to pay him and another coach. So he might be here for another season after this one, and then they have a team option so they can get out of it after the 2024-2025 season. But I'm not concerned with like win-loss record. I don't think Chauncey needs to win 40 games or should be fired or whatever. But I do want to start seeing whatever he wants to be as a coach, because we have not seen any, like, who knows what, like, we know what he says his style should be or what he wants his style to be as a coach, but we have no sense of seeing what that looks like on the court.
The only time we've ever seen it really is when it's like new guys. It was 2 specific times we've seen it. We saw it during that 4-game winning streak after the trade deadline when we brought in Josh Hart, right, and had Justice Winslow, Nurkic, whatever. And then after that, it went away. Like, it got scouted, right? Mm. We saw it to start last season. The first, 12, 13, 14 games, right? They were a little turnover heavy. The offense actually wasn't even, that highly rated, but they were winning games, right? And then it started to struggle more because it got scouted. So, can he be a coach that can play the style he supposedly wants to play when it's scouted and when it's tougher to? Can he instill that style permanently in a team? I don't know, and I think this isn't burning down the stage in terms of being negative. These conversations on the stream tonight is setting the stage for what we need to see out of this season. We need to see Chauncey improve as a coach. We need to see Chauncey implement some sort of style of offense that actually works and actually makes sense. And, given that the whole narrative is he has his guys now, he can do what he wants to do now, well, okay, we're going to need to see results and we're going to need to see improvement. And we need to work on this stuff in preseason, because that's a great time to work on it. So.
Yep, absolutely. I saw a question from Rose City USA. Who would you guys rather be the Blazers coach?
Who would we rather? Was that the question? I didn't.
Yeah, who would you rather have as head coach right now?
It doesn't even matter who. It just matters what they do. Just want to see ball movement. Just want to see player movement. Want to see guys that play off each other. I mean, I think everybody wants to see that, though. I think even the people that would complain about this being a negative stream or whatever, that's what they want to see too. You know what I mean? So I want to see, I think there was some good moments, like the bench, and I think when it starts with Scoot, he gets the ball moving, and I think Scoot will be a guy that kind of sparks a lot of it, but it needs to not be completely reliant upon Scoot. It needs to be a collective thing. So, yeah, Dro says, you guys are blaming Chauncey. The players we have suck. In person, they are awful. It's style of play. It's not blaming Chauncey for, somebody not being able to make a 3-point shot or, somebody not having a certain skill. Anybody in the NBA can move, can set screens, can cut, can make the extra pass, right? That's not super player dependent. And if you have a great isolation scorer and want to play that way, fine. But this team, more than any team in the past few years, is not built that way. So that's what we want to see. We want to see a style of play instilled, and that's what I want to see progress in. That's why it's like this is not a negative stream. Like, this is what we need to work on. There wasn't really much of it tonight. It needs to get better. It needs to get better, and hopefully it will get better next preseason game, the last preseason game, going into the season. Like, this is just what our expectations are this year. Because I thought you worded it perfectly. Like, Chauncey needs to show what he wants to be as a coach.
Yeah. For me, it's so difficult because everything Chauncey says is what I've been wanting to hear since 2012 when he hired Terry Stotts. You know, like, he says exactly, like, I want them to be scrappy on defense. I want them to fly around and be physical and that type of team you do not want to match up against. There's like, oh crap, Portland's on our next up on our 5-game road trip. Now we have to deal with that and we're all tired, you know. Like, I want that kind of coach. Like, that's exactly who I want to be. But, like, I don't know, Mike Brown, for example, goes to Sacramento, says all the same things, and gets his team to play that way. Now, I know he has, you know, maybe better roster or whatever, but, like, it doesn't matter to me like, you could have the worst 15 guys in the league. You can still play the way you want to play, and you can still at least attempt to do some of the stuff you want to do as coach, and you can still come up with some interesting defensive schemes or things like that. But to me, everything's just been so basic with Chauncey on the court, yet he tries to talk about how complex it is and how hard it is to understand and stuff off the court. So, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, something's not computing between what he's teaching and what the players are performing.
And this is like the last 2 years thing. This isn't really about tonight. This is kind of like the last 2 years thing.
Yeah.
I think the point with tonight, I'm going to respond to this comment because I think this sums up everything in regards to specifically tonight. DeAndre says, guys, this team is full of kids and Ant has a new role this year. All the last few years was stand around and watch Dame shoot. It's all new and will take time for the players to grow into roles and expand. 100% correct. I just want to see them working on it in preseason. Mm-hmm. I just want to see them working on it when the games don't count. And I don't know if they really made that an emphasis to work on it tonight because there's just a lot of isolation standing around like over and over and over again. So,
well, yeah, I mean, we got to talk about a player in this regard in a minute, but I don't know. You look at Houston tonight, and they look like a team that's like super well coached, right? And I know like we weren't going to hire Ime Udoka because of what happened or whatever, but like you could just tell that guy's making an impact on that roster, and guys are responding, and they obviously put in the work this summer to get to where Ime wanted them to be, and they could take a big jump just because of having a different coach that has them playing in a way that is best suited for maximizing their talent. And so that's all I want out of a coach is someone who does that and gets his roster to perform like that. Now, I'm not saying it's definitive because it's still preseason, but like someone like Jabari Smith just looks like a completely different player. So one, he put in the work this summer and improved a lot of his weaknesses. It looks like he was taking people off the dribble in preseason so far. Looks really good. And so I don't know whether he deserves all the credit or Ime's been working with him or whatever, or maybe it's a little bit of both. But I think I just want to see that. Or you look at Will Hardy last year with Utah, takes a roster that people thought was going to be one of the worst teams in the league and gets like an all-star in Lauri Markkanen and brings out the most out of his game. And they look really good until they start to sit players and didn't want to make the playoffs. But I don't know. I look around. I already mentioned Mike Brown last year with first-year coach with the Kings, gets them for like ends their playoff drought and things like that. So it's frustrating to me to see all these coaches around the league get something out of young guys and rosters, and then you look at someone who I think we need to move on and talk about, and that's Shaedon Sharpe. I mean, honestly, it doesn't look like he's really done anything since last season.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not. I don't want to overreact, and I don't want you to get in trouble.
But he did look that way in summer league, and I don't know. It's like he seems to be. I don't know what but he's just not getting. I don't know. Chauncey's not getting the most out of him if he's not the guy on the team, right? If he's not the number one option.
Like, Sharpe does a lot of damage in transition, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they have not really run that much. I don't know if the stats back that up, but these two preseason games, I feel like they haven't really ran the floor.
Yeah.
Which is just weird to me. Today they had 16 fast break points. Phoenix had 22.
Let me just say this. I think part of the problem is everyone was like, Sharpe's untouchable, he's going to be awesome, blah, 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 blah. I think the expectations are too high for Sharpe for this season. I think they got a little out of control by Blazer fans. And I don't think he's, supposed to be good, right away or whatever.
Well, you know what it is? It's the next new thing.
Mm-hmm. I just don't like I don't know. He just seems to float around a lot and not really engage, and so it's totally a young player thing. I'm not saying I'm concerned long term or anything, but I'm talking about it in relation to coaching. I feel like if you had a coach like Mike Brown, he's not letting Sharpe get away with that, and it's already been enforced all of last season and all summer to where by now, in his second year, it's not looking like it's looking on the court. And it could happen, it could just be a little funky Zen or whatever.
Yeah, he might snap out of it next game.
Right. Yeah, it could be totally fine, and this is all totally unfair. But Chauncey now has enough of a history of not really doing anything, coaching-wise. So, I hope that's not the case, but I'm just really worried that Chauncey's coaching combined with some of these players that don't necessarily know how to be focused and energized at all times on the court is not something's not connecting there.
Yeah, for me, in regards to engagement with a young player going into his second year, I'm not going to worry about it until it shows up in the regular season. It's we saw it in summer league and we're seeing it now in the preseason, but it's these games just might not matter to him, which they should. Maybe that's a little bit worrying, but if he comes on the regular season and is playing hard, it's fine then, you know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't take this opportunity to try and work on stuff, which isn't great, but it's better than it being a permanent problem, right? It's better than nothing. So, I mean, that's kind of my hope, is that once they get into a regular season, and he's starting, and the games matter, and maybe he's in the starting lineup. I don't know if he deserves to start, if he keeps looking like this all preseason, right? I wanted him to start, but if he just completely doesn't earn it, then, I mean, what can you do? If it's engagement-based, then that's kind of the one thing where I've said that's the only thing you really bench him for or don't play him for. If he's making mistakes that are execution mistakes or not running not making the right rotation or that sort of thing, you got to tell him what he did wrong, but you got to let him try and play through that and try and improve on the fly, in my opinion, for execution stuff. But engagement effort stuff is the stuff you got to hold accountable. But if he's starting and guarding Kawhi Leonard in game one,
yeah,
is he gonna rise up to that challenge? If he doesn't embrace that challenge, and if that's not a thing that he does, then you definitely do have to start worrying at some point. But at this point, a couple games into the preseason, I'm not worried yet. I know some people in chat are worried, and I understand being worried about it. I'm not worried about it yet.
So if it's obvious to Chauncey that he's not taking preseason seriously, is that enough for you to start Thibault if Thibault is?
it's okay to start Thibault if that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at the point where if he starts, given what I've seen the last two games, if we continue to see this the rest of the preseason from Sharpe, I am cool with starting Thibault at the 3. Like, my opinion on that has changed because I expected Sharpe to come in, and maybe my expectations were a little too high for Sharpe, like you were talking about. But I feel like I always go into the season with pretty tempered expectations. Like, you got to prove it to me. Like, I've never really drank the Kool-Aid, so I felt like my expectations were reasonable going into the season. But yeah, like, if he's not taking preseason seriously, like, it's an opportunity for him to get better. He should be taking every opportunity to get better seriously. He should be, working his ass off. So, that's the thing with young guys, man, is like some guys get into the league and they start getting millions and millions of dollars and they don't work the same as when they were broke and trying to make their dream a reality, right? You just hope that's never the case with anybody on your team.
Yeah, and so Lachlan Benson says Sharpe is a scorer, ceiling like Booker and Beal. It's hard for him to score in the starting lineup. We should start Tease and bring Shaedon as 6-man and let him have the ball more and kill. Thoughts? Well, the problem is we're probably always going to have one of Scoot or Ant on the court at all times. So I don't know if he's necessarily the focal point, even off the bench.
But like the big part of Shaedon's scoring is like he's a lob threat. If he cuts, he can finish. Like he's a putback threat. Like his ceiling as a scorer is doing a ton of damage where the ball isn't in his hands to start the play.
He was also one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the league last year.
Exactly. So like I think his ceiling as a scorer, half of it might come off other guys. Like that's why I like the idea of him with Scoot long term, is like Scoot should be a guy that should be able to feed him on lobs, on cuts, kick out threes, that sort of thing. And I think that's going to be a big part of Sharpe's bread and butter. And then he can do stuff off the dribble when he needs to, and he has just a super well-rounded offensive game.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Allen said that's not how this league is anymore. I mean, but this league, how many people can jump like Shaedon Sharpe? Like Shaedon is unique. That's why he's so tantalizing.
Yeah. And once again, this is not saying anything bad about Sharpe. Like, he's going to be fine. He'll figure it out, hopefully. But, like, there were concerns during Summer League about his engagement level and his focus level and his attention to detail and how hard he was how much he was improving some of his weaknesses instead of focusing on his strengths, which is like his athleticism and his and things like that. And so I made the comment during Summer League, this is something that is fine, but I want to see how he responds to that. So he had 3+ months between Summer League and now, or about 3 months. So my thing is, why is it looking exactly like Summer League because like a player who is really locked in and focused on improving things and being an elite player, I don't know, you would have that experience and you'd be like, screw this, I'm not going to look like that in 3 months. I'll come back and show them. And I
think he looks sharper with his handle, and I know that's a big thing he worked on. And he had a mid-range today. I know that was the other thing he said he really worked on.
Yeah.
But, because how do you work on, like, engagement issues, right? Or, like, if he just kind of floats offensively, like, how do you work on that on your own in the offseason?
Well, like, some people have mentioned in comments it might be because he's playing small forward and not shooting guard. But, like, how is it? I don't understand why, like, if he plays shooting guard, it's just different. Because at the end of last season, he was basically handling the ball and being the primary ball handler. So it doesn't matter to me if he plays the 2 or the 3 because he's not going to be the primary ball handler. So he's got to learn how to play without the ball. But there's plenty of opportunities for him to get the ball and call for a screen and do what he did at the end of last season. So I don't know. but like it's still, to me, this season, I'd rather work through all this with Sharpe than play it to someone else and win. So like I'm kind of in your boat with the whole Thibault starting and stuff, because I still ultimately want Sharpe to win that job and to give him as many reps as possible to work through all this, and maybe in a year or two, like, looks way more comfortable and doesn't have any of these issues. So I really hope that's the case, that he eventually gets all the reps this year, whether we're winning or losing.
We need to give him pick and roll reps. I feel like we haven't really watched him run many pick and rolls, and he was making a ton of progress as a pick and roll ball handler last season. And I don't want to get away from that. I also want to see us design some things for a backdoor lob, or design something to utilize his athleticism, to do design cuts. Like, I think there's ways to get him, like, involved in a way that, like, gets him going. And, you know, I think it might be more the case for him than other players, but I do think that's a thing for a lot of players that don't just automatically always have the ball in their hands, is you gotta get them going, gotta get them a little bit of a rhythm somehow. Sometimes it's just hitting them with kick-out threes. I mean, he can get going like that too, but, you know, he's supposed to be more than that. So, and that just kind of, for me, comes back to Chauncey.
Yeah, why are we getting Grant those looks? Like, why are we engaging him? We know what he can do already, right? Like, he's the vet in this league. He's our oldest player, right? So why are we concerned with getting him involved early in the offense?
Yeah. So, you know, like, I am not worried with Sharpe. I think it is going to take some time this season for him to kind of get back to where he was last year. But I also think, like, last year when he went on that tear, how much of it was him scoring out of pick and rolls? Like, that game against Minnesota where he was just taking it at Rudy Gobert, he was taking it at Rudy Gobert in pick and rolls. I don't know how many pick and rolls he's ran. Maybe I'm just kind of forgetting some of the plays he did, but yeah, you gotta be able to run some stuff for him. Also, our spacing is not, I don't think, going to be as good as previous seasons. I don't know if it'll be much worse, and it's not like we shot bad from 3 today. We were 14 for 35, 40%.
40%.
But I do wonder if the paint will be a little bit more clogged, especially if Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton play together. You know, so I think it's just going to take some time for him to get a feel for where his opportunities are going to come, where he can get to his spots. Like, there's just a lot that goes into it. And, you know, it's just all about, and that's the thing with these young guys, it's just all about mindset, having the right mindset, having the right work ethic, like him, Ayton, you know, like Scoot, I don't question his mindset at all. Some of these guys, you know, you do have to wonder a little bit, but obviously they have the opportunity to be in control of themselves as players, and they are in control of their mindset. So, you know, no excuses. Like, it's up to them. So
I will say, I think Sharpe is the best player on our team at navigating a clogged paint.
Yeah.
I think he can contort his body and finish at so many different angles and hang in the air so high that I think he had one nice play where he went up high and, like, then brought the ball down low and got by Nurk and another defender for a layup in the first half. That was really nice. But I do think that he can attack with those guys, and I think he showed enough passing ability too to, if he has a lob target and all the defense clogs the paint on him, that he can lob for dunks as well.
Yeah. Damn, is that train, like, off the rails and heading for your house? I've never heard a train that loud on the stream before.
You've said that before, but yeah.
Have I made that joke before?
Yeah,
I don't remember. Yeah. So, see, I don't remember it ever being loud before, because I just don't remember. We gotta talk about Grant, because we haven't really talked about Grant. He had such a Jeremy Grant game today. 6 for 11 from the field. Great, right? 1 for 3 from 3, so he's 5 for 8 inside the arc. 13 points. 1 assist. 0 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
In 25 minutes. Not a steal, not a block. Like, defensively, okay.
At least he was guarding KD and not, like, Booker.
Yeah, like, We need to trade him this season, in my opinion. Because
January 15th.
If you want to play, I just don't think he fits in a style of offense anymore that moves the ball. I just don't think he does.
I think he'd be fine if he's shooting like around 40% like he was most of last year until his shooting fell off. But yeah, the ball seems to just stick too much to him, like he's not like swinging it crisply. He's not like getting into the paint and kicking out very much. So yeah, like catch and shoot's fine. Jesus, Train. He's like Parker says, he's a great catch and shoot guy. Yeah, if he's not shooting as bad as he did last year, but I think he is he's a good floor spacer, like in theory. I don't like the amount of ISO he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's my worry, and this was like a worry before preseason. My worry is if he was on a contending team with like 2 stars, he would play off them. But on this team that's young, where like he thinks he's the best scorer on the team, probably he's gonna play like he thinks he's the best scorer on the team when he gets the ball.
Well, Ayton also thinks he's the best scorer on the team. Ant probably feels like he is the best scorer on this team. Sharpe feels like eventually he'll be the best scorer on the team, probably. So we have too many guys maybe that feel like they're.
That was the thing with like Dame and CJ, right? Like, oh, it's redundant and undersized backcourt sucks defensively. Well, at least on the offensive side of the ball, you knew it was like Dame's number 1, CJ's number 2. They will make plays for other guys, and other guys need to play off them. And it was very clear, and that's why it was functional, even though they like were last in the league in assists and didn't move the ball enough. It was because they got Dame and CJ, and it was like everything goes through them and goes based on them, and everything plays off of them. Like, you got to be able to play off other guys. This is something that I hope to see improvement in as the season starts, because when guys are new, they don't know how to do that. Like, they don't have enough experience playing next to somebody to know how to play off of them and how that guy plays off them, right? And it's that chemistry. It goes back to chemistry, and that's why this preseason is important, because with a bunch of new players on the team, more turnover than like we've ever had. Dame's gone, building that chemistry is going to be very important. So that's something that we need to see improvement in, and it's like, I feel like tonight you could see some of the lack of chemistry when like Jeremy Grant got the ball and it's just like, okay, I'm going to go hunt a bucket, and everybody else is standing around like watching him. I think part of that is coaching. I think part of that is it will take some time to build some chemistry, and it's just Grant had moments last year where he was a little bit of a black hole. Today, he shot the ball decent, but I see a lot of people in chat before we even start talking about him like, I don't enjoy watching him. Like, I was not impressed. This is what chat's saying. This isn't even what we're saying. So, I just, having a player like that, does he help the development of a Sharpe, of a Anthony Simons? I don't know. Like, you got to learn how to play next to guys that'll go get buckets and be bucket getters, and you need some guys like that in this league, but I am a fan of trading Grant for a first-round pick and recouping that value and clearing up our salary for the next couple of years and giving some of these younger guys a chance and seeing if we can develop them.
Yeah. He was bad in the first preseason game. I don't think he was as bad tonight. But Adam Smith says we don't want Pistons Grant, but we're going to get Pistons Grant. This is what's going to happen. And he's shown he's gone now. He took the exact same contract from Detroit to go there and be the guy. And this is one of the reasons why we were worried about trading for him. And now last year, those worries were set aside because he fit in fine and was willing to accept, being a secondary role versus the main guy on a bad team. And it was working for a while. And I still think it can work on this team, but now he probably sees an opportunity to go back to being a number one option or whatever, because there isn't like a clear number one option on our team. So I think maybe that's going to be the case. But the good thing is I don't think his trade value is hurt at all if he's aggressive and is trying to be a number one option. I still think even with his contract, he'll be fine to trade. It might actually help us a little bit.
Yeah. Let me thank some donations. Shout out MGJJ123, $5 donation. Says, been a season ticket holder a long time. Went to the game tonight. Just not the same vibe at Moda without Dame. Well, it is preseason. But thank you for the $5 donation. Like, it was never really much of a vibe in the preseason. But Dame coming out is obviously very exciting to watch offensively. He's very fun to watch. And Scoot, I think, is going to bring some of those same vibes, because Scoot's fun to watch too, and was fun to watch tonight. Thank you to the Suns fan Eli in chat. Says, from a Suns fan, y'all got a dog in Scoot. Yeah, I know Gabe and Sundo were really impressed. I mean, Scoot's going to be a fun player, and will kind of replace that entertainment value, at least some of it, that Dame brought. Thank you for the donation. Shout out to Monopo Man with a $350 dono. Says, got back from the game. Upset no Kamara tonight. Yeah, Eric, I thought Kamara deserved some more minutes, because apparently he's looked great in preseason and looked really good in the first preseason game. I even did a video on him that popped off and then doesn't get a chance at all tonight. And the only thing he did was shoot one mid-range pull-up, which mid-range isn't really his game, and he badly bricked it. That's it.
Yeah, 5 minutes in the second half. Great.
Yeah. So I am frustrated with that. Thank you for the donation. Shout out to Chris S., member for 32 months. That's a long time. Thank you, Chris. Says, really worried about Chauncey too, but how are we going to play with speed and transition if we can't rebound? Any thoughts on Sharpe's defense at the 3? Yeah, that's a good point. Great message. Because if you have to have everyone crash the defensive glass in order to get rebounds, you're not having guys running out. You're not having guys where you can throw hit-ahead passes to them. It makes it harder to run when you don't have a really good defensive rebounding center. If you have a really good defensive rebounding center who can gobble up a bunch of rebounds, so gobble them up, hit the outlet, you'll have guys running down the court. But this team has to send everyone to the glass because they got a power forward who tonight in 25 minutes had no rebounds. And then DeAndre Ayton, I thought, gave up a lot of boards in 23 minutes. He had 6 rebounds. It's one of the worst rebounding power forward center duos in the league, probably. That's mostly because of Grant. But Ayton is a bit of a downgrade from Nurkic rebounding-wise, and when you're starting Sharpe, Simon, Scoot, and those guys have to help out those guys, it's harder to run because you want those guards running out.
Yeah, well, it's not like Thibel's a great rebounder either, so yeah. I don't think it really matters who you start at the 3 in that regard. True. But yeah, that's a great point by Chris, because the other part about it is if your center's not getting boards or boxing out the other center and that guy is getting rebounds, the other, some of your players have already started to leap down the court when the shot goes up if you're trying to run. So they're not coming in for rebounders either. So you never have 5 guys crashing the defensive boards if you're trying to run. You always have at least 1 or 2 guys leaking down the court. And I don't think you can't be a good running team without rebounding, and you can't be a good rebounding team if you're trying to run a lot unless you have an elite rebounder at either the power forward or center. But yeah.
The problem is we had one of those guys, but he was so slow, that's why we couldn't run.
But you don't have to have all 5 guys down the court to run.
Exactly.
If your slow guy gets the rebound and kicks it out, by the time he gets down the court, you should have already gotten the shot off if you're running correctly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I never bought that Nurk was the reason we couldn't run. So interesting stuff. Interesting comment. So let's think the next one. Shout out to Colonel Pancakes, $5 donation. Says, no offense to Jabari Walker, but Billups said he was the most improved player. I don't see it yet. Thank you, Colonel Pancakes, for the donation. Yeah, I mean, Jabari's going to show it, like, if it's true that he's the most improved player, he's going to show it over an extended period of time. He's not going to show it in 1 or 2 games because he's not like a scorer, right? He's not going to be most improved where he's coming out here getting 15 a game because he's breaking guys off the dribble. As much as we might hope because of the Paul George clip from this offseason. It's going to be in, like, knocking down open catch-and-shoot threes when he gets them, which he knocked down one of those today. He was 1 for 2 from the three-point line, right? And only 14 minutes of play. Like, he's not going to get 8 threes in 14 minutes, so that's where it's like you need to see that play out over 20 games where he's shooting 37-38% from 3, which would be a big improvement over where he was last year. So I think with Jabari just giving it time, I do think his body looks a little better. He had 6 rebounds in 14 minutes today. Pound for pound, he's probably our best rebounder on the team. And, it's little things, so I do think, it's a little too small of a sample, so that's why you're not seeing it yet.
Yeah, well, he also had that nice fast break lay-in where he finished with the left hand and against the defender, so that was good to see. He did struggle a little bit last year with finishing at times. We just talked about our power forward and our center not rebounding. So Jabari's, that's his elite skill, is rebounding. And I think that's going to be a reason why he plays, is because he is a guy who can get the rebound and allow them to run when others aren't. So yeah, I think it's fine. I think he's never going to be like the main guy on a team like he was in college, but I think as a role player, like you said, if you can hit the 3, play solid defense, he messed up a few rotations tonight, so I'm not worried about him long term because he's a pretty smart player. So I don't think that'll be the case all the time. In fact, I don't usually see him mess up that badly. So in that regard, it was just probably like an isolated game, but. Just play solid defense, hit the open shots, and finish around the rim if you get an opportunity to. I didn't catch it. Well, he obviously didn't have any other buckets other than the 3 in that fast break lay-in, so it obviously didn't happen this game. But last game and all of last season, I think he's a guy who excels in the dunker spot as well, and he just has a really good feel for where to position himself to accept the pass in space, and just goes up right from there. And so maybe like this game we didn't see that, but next game hopefully we see a little bit more of him around the baseline catching those balls.
Yeah, he will look better offensively if the ball is moving more.
Yeah.
So we need the ball to start moving more. Shout out to Alex Wolf with a $2 donation. Says, which team do you think might be a good spot for Grant? Memphis has a lot of guys in the front court, but that could be a decent team. Like, I think they need some shooting and a little bit of a scoring punch. Like, maybe 6th man off the bench might be a good role for him there. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. You're just looking for a team that needs a little bit of scoring punch, especially from a front court spot.
Yeah, I think Philly would be a good spot for him.
Especially if they lose Harden, yeah. I
don't
think he's
think
an upgrade over Tobias.
Yeah, I don't think the contracts quite match, so we'd have to throw in someone else. But it is a case where I think Grant would fit in really good next to Embiid because Embiid's a good rebounder.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they will have the assets. Maybe they do after the trade. I also think it's funny. Miami is a pretty good fit for him next to Bam.
Yeah, because they need some shooting, some scoring punch.
I think he'd be a good fit next to Claxton in Brooklyn, but they're hoping Cam Johnson runs away with that role. There's always the LA teams.
Yeah, he just screams he just seems like an LA Clipper. Me. I mean, honestly, Eric, they've been tied to Brogdon. Is there a way they can trade for both Brogdon and Grant? Because I know they have a few like contracts between 10 and 20 million. They have 2 picks they can trade.
Yeah, I think they can get close because they have Morris is expiring. It's like 17 something. And they got Batum's expiring. Rocco is making what, 12 million? I think Batum like 9 or 10.
And Batum's making 10? I'm pulling it up right now. Batum is making 11.7. Rocco's making 11.6. They got Marcus Morris at 17.1. They also have Norman Powell that you would like probably maybe
flip to another team, yeah.
Or maybe they keep him. They also got Terrence Mann.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna like plug this in right now, salary wise. Like I would want to try and get them to keep Norman Powell because then I think we would be able to get back more in terms of pick compensation, but that's actually interesting because it seems like those would be 2 guys that they would be after.
Yeah, I mean, if they trade for Harden, they're going to not have a lot of those guys, so it might change the dynamic there. But
yeah, so Mann, Morris, Covington, and Batum is $1 million more than Grant and Brogdon.
Yeah.
So interesting, and those are 3 expiring contracts, and Terrence Mann's kind of interesting. So
we're not saying that the Blazers are for sure going to trade both those guys, but we're just talking about. It's a
random hypothetical, bro. Yeah, it's a random hypothetical. We'll talk trades later, like on in the season. I don't know. We don't normally talk trades the first 20 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if we get a question about it in a donation message, we're gonna answer it. So
yeah,
good answer. Brogdon. Speaking of Brogdon, he looked good tonight. He did have 3 turnovers in 15 minutes, had like 4 turnovers in the first preseason game, so that's some of like he's a veteran guard, very steady, like can score the ball. Like he's not somebody that turns over the ball a ton. So I think that's just a lack of chemistry kind of showing itself there. But 5 for 7 tonight, 2 for 4 from 3, had a nice floater, little slow motion old man floater. A fast break lay-in, like he's not the quickest guy, but he gets the job done. 2 for 4 from 3 as well. Like this is the type of game where if it's a regular season game, like his minute balance with Scoot and Sharpe is probably closer because Scoot and Sharpe play like 30 and 31 minutes. They got subbed in at the end of the game, but like Brogdon played 15 minutes. And I think Brogdon will be a really important guy if this team like wants to be competitive. He'll be really important in terms of like steadying the ship and getting the ball moving and just kind of initiating it and being that point guard. But he can score the ball, man. 13 points in 15 minutes tonight.
Yeah, Brogdon's good, man. That's always been a guy that I've wanted the Blazers to go after. But we haven't needed a guard either. So, like,
yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, people in the chat are concerned about Sharpe playing the 3 or whatever. Well, what do you expect when we bring in Brogdon? You have to play him.
Exactly.
So that's, I don't know. We're stuck in this weird thing where I think it's like players like Brogdon make us too good to play him too much, and but we're never going to be bad enough to bottom out if that's what you want. So I don't really know what this season is.
Yeah, that's why I do think he will ultimately get moved. Hopefully he has a lot of performances like he had tonight in the regular season, so he keeps that trade value up. And then Matisse Thybulle, 19 minutes, 6 points, 2 for 2 from 3, back-to-back threes. I mean, he's just a solid shooter in a Blazer uniform, maybe even a good 3-point shooter in a Blazer uniform, man. I don't know what it is, but of course he came over in the trade and shot the ball pretty good in a Blazer uniform last season and has picked up where he left off in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a high 30% 3-point shooter, obviously his contract's going to be worth it. If it ever falls off or whatever, then it's questionable. Because, I don't know, the defense, to me now, going back to last season, doesn't look any different with him out there. It's like the whole stats thing,
weird.
right? We're 29th in defense with him, or 29th in defense
Yeah,
without
like
him.
yeah. Like he's a really good defender, but it just doesn't feel like he has like he changes much. Do you guys feel the same way, chat? Because I'm curious. It's strange.
There was a point in the third. I don't know if it was the third or fourth quarter, but he was in there, and I forget who else, but they got a couple steals in a row, and they looked like they were flying around, getting in the passing lanes and stuff. And there was that one where Skylar Mays like laid it in when he could have possibly thrown it off the backboard to Sharpe. If Sharpe
I wanted him to.
Yeah.
It's preseason. I wanted him to.
But like it felt. That was the only time in this game where I felt like, wow, they're actually like a menace on defense, and then it was, it only lasted a few possessions.
I just think he needs other. Like I think Matisse will feel like he's having more of a defensive impact when he has like Robert Williams on the floor. Like I think he's the type of guy where it's like if it's just him and he's the only really good defender on the floor, it just doesn't make much of a difference. But like if you couple him with a Robert Williams, then they together make a pretty good impact on the defense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like GP2 when he played in Golden State, like had a huge impact defensively, I felt like. But he was playing next to Draymond, playing next to other guys. Like, they collectively complemented each other defensively. And then when GP2 was here, of course he didn't want to be here, and torterole and ab injury and blah, blah, blah. Like, so maybe he wasn't playing as hard, but it just didn't feel the same. So I'm starting to wonder if there's, like, legitimately an element to it where it's like you have to have, you have to couple guys together in order for them to individually have an impact.
Yeah, to be fair, it hasn't played with Robert Williams yet. I think he'll look a lot better with him. And
like, I think we can put out a decent defensive lineup with Tease and with Grant at the 4 and Robert Williams at the 5. Like 3-4-5. That's a pretty good trio. That's a pretty good trio.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about Chris Murray.
There's one more.
Oh, is there one more? Oh, Jackson, member for 32 months. Long time. And the moderator, so shout out to him. Says, needs to keep going good to get that value up, LOL.
He's talking about Brogdon.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to see Brogdon play well. Just for trade value purposes, 100%. Thank you, Jackson. And let's talk about Chris Murray. Because we already talked about the other two forwards. I don't know, man. Like, he missed a wide open left-handed lane, and he's left-handed. Like, that play was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, 1 for 2. That was his only miss from 2.
I know. But, like, man, make your wide open layups. Just do the NBA.
Wasn't that off an offensive rebound, though?
Yeah, but he was... Like the hustle. It was good hustle. It's just like, man, you're wide open. You're wide open, man. I don't know. I hope he shows me something soon.
Yeah, I mean, much like we talked about with Jabari, Chris is coming now from being the man on a team to learning how to be a role player. So I'm willing to give those people a little bit more time than if like we're expecting him to be like a top draft pick and a star.
Of course.
Like maybe like his brother.
Yeah, it's just in a post-game show, if I'm going to talk about how he played tonight, like he had a 3, he missed another 3, and then he missed a open layup. Like the open layup kind of stood out the most to me. It was just kind of, I'm not the highest on Chris Murray, it's yeah, I know. This is a revelation, right? Like, I wasn't the highest on Keegan Murray either. Like, Keegan Murray had a solid rookie year. I still don't think he should have went 4th. I still think a high upside guy like a Shaedon Sharpe should have went ahead of him. Maybe a Benedict Mathurin should have went ahead of him. Walker Kessler, potentially. But, Keegan's pretty good. The thing is, Keegan shoots the 3-ball really well. So that's the thing with Chris is, like, he needs to knock down 3s at, like, 37, 38%. If he can, then okay, well, he's not going to really screw you up anywhere else, so he's playable. If he's shooting threes at 33% or 34%, which he did this last year in college, then it's, oh, well, what is he giving you? So that's the thing with Chris Murray is I think it's very important for him to knock down threes. And that's something where, like, he's not going to shoot a ton of threes, and we're going to need a large sample size to evaluate him that way. Just because the other areas, he doesn't have a ton of, like, really big weaknesses or anything. It's just not necessarily impressive at the same time. So he needs to be able to knock down threes regularly is the key for him.
Yeah. Maybe just stick to corner threes for a while, too.
Yeah. Was he much better in the corners in college?
I don't know if he was, but I just feel like it'll be easier for him in the pros.
There is a bigger difference between corner three and, like, straightaway three in the NBA than there is in college because it gets close to the sideline, so then it cuts itself, like, straight down. So, yeah. It's going to be fun to see. I think there will be a game, either next game or the final game against Phoenix, where, like, they play Chris Murray 30 minutes and they play Tamani Kamara 30 minutes and they play Jabari Walker 30 minutes. That game is going to be fun and interesting to see those guys play on like a larger sample and see if they find a rhythm and how they look, you know. It's yeah. That's all I have to say. As far as Chris Murray goes. And then Moses had a couple impressive moments, I guess. Had a couple of dunks. Energy was good from him. 13 minutes, 3 for 5, 8 points. Also made both his free throws, which he struggles from the line. So that was good. I mean, he looked okay. he looked solid out there, you know.
Now my mom answers the question. Moses Brown stood out.
Moses Brown. So good to see that. He just reminds me of like a giant deer. I don't know what it is.
Moses has been fine.
Yeah. Moses is a solid third string center. He's a solid third string center. If you're trying to win games, you don't want to go into the season with him as the backup. But if he's third stringer, that's completely fine. Like he's big. He's a big dude and plays to that and can block a shot. So, and has looked decently mobile, you know. I still think he needs to add strength, but yeah. He's a solid third string big, so happy with him. And then Rupert, 12 minutes, run for 2 from the field, hit a 3, which was nice to see. It was pure, and it was right after he airballed. But he shot was that a mid-range that he airballed on? Like he airballed a mid-range, then he took a step out and hit it.
It was one step in the 3-point line with a guy at his face from the side. It was not a good shot.
Not his game.
Yeah.
But then the open 3, that's the thing that you really care about. You want to see him knock down open 3s, knock down an open 3. You know, that's going to be a key for him as well. You know, it's a key for basically a lot of players in the NBA, but Rupert, like, has some intriguing skills. It's just he has to be able to play off other guys because he's going to be a role player first and foremost. In the most optimistic scenario, you tap into those skills at some point, but the 3-point shot is important for that reason. And I just think, like, he needs to see things faster. Like, I think he can pass. I think he can handle. I think he can move well. I think athletically he's decent. He just, I think it's been clear in Summer League and then the past couple of games, like the game moves fast. It's the NBA, and that's a big adjustment for young players. Is the game moves faster than they're used to, and it moves a little too fast for them until they get used to the speed of the game and start seeing things quicker. So I think that's going to be a key for him is like processing things faster as they happen on the court. So that is something that I'm hoping to see improvement from him this year.
Yeah, and I don't know how many minutes he's going to play this year. He might actually spend some time in the G League if we don't have
that'd be good for him.
Injuries or whatever. But yeah, I just think he needs as many reps and just game experience as possible.
I think he would benefit more from the G League than any other player on our main roster.
I agree. Yep, I agree.
So, cool. Anything else, chat? Any questions? Kenneth says Tory trashing ever. Man, like, these streams are hard to do because this team obviously has to improve on a lot. And I'm talking about what they need to improve on, and people just take that as negativity. Like,
Yeah.
like what else am I supposed to talk? They need to work on a lot of stuff, and they need to improve a ton. They're a young team. Like, I'm gonna talk about what they need to improve on. Like, I'll try and point out what they do well and when they do it. So,
yeah. Talking about growing opportunities is not negative either. Yeah.
Talking about Ayton having an opportunity, like, and saying, I hope he has the right mindset. And it's up to him. Like, he has a great opportunity in front of him. Like, that's not a negative comment either. But, I'm sure there will be, like, those 5 robots in chat, like, or not in chat, 5 robots in the comment section. He's so negative. So, yeah. It's constructive. It's constructive, That's what the season is. This is a building season. It's a constructive season. And hopefully we have a ton of fun moments along the way.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, we're not going to beat the Suns very often, if they're playing well and we're trying our best. But I don't know. I don't want to see it look like it's been in the past. I want to start to see something different and some like a team that looks like it's being coached to play a certain way and not the same thing over and over again that hasn't worked now for several years. And so that's all I'm looking for this season is to notice that progress. And if it continues to not be shown, like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to continue to point it out until it does, because that is an issue. If the team's not being developed the right way, or if, win now players are playing over developmental players and we're losing anyway, like, what's the freaking point of that?
Yeah, exactly. So, yep. We will do our best all season long to word things in a way where it is constructive and not tearing down any players. Like we legitimately tried not to hate on players, and we might make a joke about somebody struggling on something, but in the end, we're trying to build. We're trying to build somewhere. We're trying to get somewhere. It's the first step in a multi-step process. So there's a lot of things to work on.
I love the players on the team. I'm going to be cheering for them. I know people have no clue about this because everyone who's like a hater doesn't necessarily watch the streams, but it has nothing to do with the players. Like the reason I can be mad at the front office and the organization and the ownership and all that stuff, while also still cheering on my favorite team and rooting hard for the players on the team. It's totally fine and okay to disassociate those two from each other. Like, it's stupid that people think you have to like not criticize horrible decisions with the front office while like being okay. Like, that means you can't root for the team or whatever. Like, all those same people like railed on Neil Olshey for years and stuff. Like, how is that any different? Like, I don't understand.
100%. So that's where we're at right now. Feeling good. Feeling all right. This team was competitive to start the game. Scoot had good moments. Had couple good moments from Ant, 3 for 6 from 3. Just struggled inside the arc. I'm not really worried about him though. Jabari 2 for 3, hit a 3. That was good. Malcolm Brogdon looked good off the bench. Matisse Thybulle has been a sniper in a Blazer uniform, so you love to see that continue. And Jeremy Grant had a good game. I just think his style of game will fit better long term on another team. So we will, at some point this season, probably start with the trade talk. And there's already been rumors leaked, like the Blazers will try and look to trade him when they can trade him. So, it's not like there hasn't been any smoke regarding that either. So that's where we're at. Any final words, Eric?
No, just despite losing, I still think it's fun to watch Scoot. So like it's going to be a fun season. I think even if the wins aren't there, just because Scoot makes it fun to watch. You never know what he's going to do with the ball in his hands, or just like you mentioned, the stop to go speed is just unreal, and that's always like it'll lead to some fun moments like last year with Sharpe. So
I do like that he was more aggressive, like trying to get downhill in the second half. That's what I want to see from him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just hope that, I mean, since we started the channel, started the summer after the Western Conference Finals run. So like people are like only know me on Twitter or whatever from 2019 on, but I've been a lifelong
really
Blazer fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, okay, I'll just say this. Like people say like in the comments, you should be Lillard Uprise instead of Blazers Uprise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm old enough to go back to 1995 when we traded Clyde Drexler.
Clyde Uprise.
I'm sorry.
Clyde Float Rise.
I'm a Blazer fan, but once the Blazers were eliminated, I was rooting for Clyde Drexler to get a ring. I wanted him to get a ring. What is wrong with that, dude? Like, I don't understand what is wrong with.
There's weird people out there. It's whatever, whatever.
It's so dumb.
Whatever.
But yeah,
we'll try not to focus too much on ridiculousness this year, but yeah, it's whatever. At the end of the day, we're human. Like, we are two Blazer fans, bro.
Yeah.
With a freaking platform somehow. How did we get here? I don't know. Dude, I'd get nervous talking in front of 5 people for a presentation. I never thought I'd be talking in front of groups of people and doing it effectively. Like, how the hell did I get here? I don't know, but we're here now, so looking forward.
But thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it all. I like, for those that are maybe new to post-game shows, like, we don't just like be like, oh, Jeremy Grant was 5 or 6, like, great job tonight. Like, we try to talk about what we want to see and what we want to be improved throughout the year, things like that. So that's how we approach it. It's not negative or anything like that. We both want to see the Blazers win a championship in our lifetime, especially while we have this channel. So like, that's all we're focused on. And like, so it's just like, we look at the game from like a way that like analyze how to improve and to get better and stuff like that. So that's always been our mindset.
Yeah, I do think we maybe defend ourselves a little too much, but at the end of the day, yeah, we're human. So looking forward to tomorrow, actually, Scorching Trails. We're going to live stream that because we're not going to record that tonight, and Steven can't record until tomorrow night, so we're just going to say screw it and live stream it. Okay?
Nice.
So, because tomorrow's our upload day. So there will probably be, when we play on Thursdays, we don't play on many Thursdays, and Blazers Uprise Live will go back to 3:30 once the season starts for picks against the spread. But on days we play, we'll probably stream the following day on Fridays. So me and Steven gonna live stream. We'll see what we get into. We'll still see how Steven feels about stuff. I will try and frustrate him somehow because I like to get under his skin. He likes to get under my skin. And last episode we agreed too much, so I gotta find a way to get Steven riled up tomorrow because it's Scorching Trails. That's what we do. So looking forward to talking some hoop with him though, for real. And looking forward to a stream on Saturday for the next preseason game.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to make the stream on Saturday, but hope you have a good stream, and I hope to have some good moments in the game.
Yeah, I will work on finding a guest. 503 Crushables, not sure yet, but that's what we got the extra people in here for. So,
speaking of Crushables, check out our episode of Hoops Crush that dropped yesterday. Crushables and I broke down what we thought were our top 10 young cores in the NBA. And then also, always like to plug Rich too. Rip City Retro had a video yesterday that him and I did. It's actually a 2-part series where we just went back and went through the GM history of the Blazers and what each GM both did well and failed to do and all that kind of stuff. So check that out on Rip City Retro if you want to learn more about the history of the Blazers.
Yep. Shout out to Rich. Shout out to you. Shout out to chat. Shout out to everyone who donated. Shout out to all our channel members. We appreciate all of you. And that's a wrap for this edition of the Blazers Uprise post-game show. I'll catch you tomorrow night on that podcast channel, second channel, link in the description for that. I'll catch you guys live with Steven. That should be a fun one. And then on Saturday, post-game show for preseason game number 3 against, who's it against? Utah Jazz. That's who I thought. 6 p.m. tip-off Pacific time, so 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. post-game show on Saturday night. Looking forward to catching you all then. So until next time, this has been Tori and Eric. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.